This video is going to be one of the most important videos that I make, in my opinion, and you really need to watch the whole thing because it's about habits. And you need to understand and watch the full thing and implement what's in this video because without the proper habits, we're not going to be able to, first of all, create the 1000x leads funnel. And then even if we do manage to do that, we're not going to be able to operate it properly. So habits. We can't have 1000x leads goals with 1x leads habits. We have to have the habits that go along with this system and allow you to operate it. So it's very, very, very important. Because think about it. You're going to have to be managing your paid ads, your content, your outreach, your partnerships, your newsletter, your community, all of this kind of stuff. And if you don't have the habits to get all of that done, it's not really going to work very well, is it? Absolutely not. So we have the classic cue to routine to reward back to cue. That is from a book called Atomic Habits, and I'm sure there's other research and other books. I'm sure he didn't invent the concept, but great book if you want to read more about this. Let's just pull it up here on maybe Amazon to show you. One of my favorite books personally, one that helped me quite a bit. 156,000 Amazon reviews. Now that is something else. So our habits for business, because this is mostly specific to business habits and in the context of making this funnel, but these habits will make or break you. And we don't want to listen to people who tell you otherwise. No matter what people say on Twitter or the internet or whatever, 95% of people would be better off if they had a very strict habits and routine. The other 5%, sure, they can do what they want, but statistically, that's not going to be you. So they say 40% of your life or more is governed by habits. I saw 40%, 43%, 50, 80%, 95, I don't know. Doesn't matter. The point is very, very important. We need these habits to work for us instead of against us. And that's the difference between good habits and bad. You're only going to go as far as your habits take you. You're not going to you can't have rich man goals with poor man habits. And this is the perfect example of this. In many cases, we'll help you build this funnel in our program, but you need to make some sort of a behavioral change to be able to do this. So let's keep going on. One of the things that really annoys me the most is the people that when you say you have a habit or a routine, they say, oh, you're going to waste time with a 3-hour morning routine. In my opinion, it is absolutely the epitome of low IQ to think that you either have to have a 3-hour long morning routine or no morning routine at all. And same with your habits, same with your work schedule. It's just like, come on. It does not have to be either one. And those who try to force you into one or the other probably don't have your best interests in mind. So what I did here is I broke it down into the introduction. Spoiler alert, that was the introduction. But I broke it down to what you should do, why you should do it, how you should do it, and then examples from my own life to try to illustrate that I actually do this. I'm not just making a video telling you to do random stuff. I actually do this stuff myself, and this is why I know it works as opposed to ripping it from someone else or maybe just guessing or whatever. So I divided it into morning habits, start of your workday habits, and end of day habits. I think that this is a good way to go about it because morning is kind of before you get to work. Start of workday is possible to kind of block out your calendar and do a bunch of stuff where the rest of your workday is kind of chaotic. And then end of day habits. So what you do right at the end of the day before you go home or stop for the day. So those are the 3 categories. So let's get into the what's. The habits that I think are very, very important for everybody in their morning, and this is going to be like very specific, like all my videos. It's not going to be, I think you should read for X amount a day or do 10,000 steps or something. It's going to be very specific to business and even more specific to operating this funnel. So I think, of course, waking up early and exercise is going to set the tone for the day. I always write down my goals and say my major definite purpose, my MDP. If you've ever read the book Think and Grow Rich, that's where that's from. And then Kaizen. And Kaizen is basically a Japanese term meaning change for the better or continuous improvement. It's the 1% better every day, if you ever heard of that type of stuff. So I think of one Kaizen improvement that I can apply to my actual life outside of work, one for my funnel, and one for the actual product that I'm selling. So small 1% improvements. We do this for 72 days with the rule of 72. If you ever thinking about compound interest, that's basically the math. So if you got 10% interest per year in the stock market, you divide 72 by 10%, and that means your money will double every 7.2 years. Look it up, try it yourself. It's a very real law of math. And the same thing here. If we think of 72 1% improvements and implement them, our life is going to be twice as good. And it's really that simple. So at least in the morning, because it's kind of not feasible to implement all of them right now in the morning, but at least come up with the ideas at a minimum and implement them if you can. The start of workday habits. So what I've done here and how I think about it is this is the stuff I have to do before I take any meetings or sales calls or help anyone. And what I do is I block up my calendar 8 a.m. to noon every single day. That sounds scary to a lot of people, but I've literally noticed no difference in the way my business and life operates just by doing that. Everybody always like, there's going to be an emergency or something like that. No, I've been doing it for years at this point. So the first thing I do, and let's just say this is 9 a.m. local time, just for whatever, right? So 9 a.m. local time. The first thing I do is talk to every client in Slack and update them and do whatever. Communication is very important. Next, I make a video like the one you're watching right now. After that, I write 5 tweets in my Hype Fury account. Where is my Hype Fury account? Here it is. And then what I do is I schedule them as recurrent posts. So there's just types, and then they're going to add up and just post over and over. So you see all my different categories. Basically what I do is I'll write a tweet like this, and then I'll also schedule it on LinkedIn, and I should be scheduling it on Facebook as well, but LinkedIn at a minimum. So that way I don't have to make carousels or make content for different platforms. It just posts them all at once. Then I write one email for my email flow, which is this flow. I'm still working on it. Then I spend 1 hour on the funnel. So implementing whatever I need to implement for that day, whether that's make a lead magnet, work on a webinar, help my appointment setter, write some content, whatever. And then I work 1 hour on product. So in the case of 1,000x leads, that's, making spreadsheets, replying to people, helping people, the coaching calls, the Trello board, whatever. And then a new one that I'm doing, and I've done this for a long time, but I just started this one, is I'm going to post in my community once a day, and that's going to be exclusive content that you basically is not anywhere else. So they kind of make them having to join the community. So this is something that I think is very strong because you're going to update your clients into your product by default, but making a YouTube video, content, writing a tweet that's also posted to Instagram, Facebook, etc., writing an email for the flow, a post in the community, like these are all things that require ongoing work as opposed to just something where like your lead magnets you might set up once, your webinar you might set up once. These are all things that are part of the funnel that have to be done every day. So that is why I have put them in a routine like this one, non-negotiable. This generally takes me about 4 hours of work. So that is why I block it out for 4 hours. And that might sound like a lot, and it is. If you want to be rich, you want to have a great business, it's going to require some work. So that's kind of all there is to say about that. And then in my end of day habits, so this would be like the 5 p.m. or 4:30 p.m. local time area. I update all the clients again, morning and night, communication, very important. I review my employees' end of day forms because I make them submit a form at the end of the day to say what they did, what they're struggling with, what they need help, etc. So I review those, and then I plan out the next day. So I plan out basically all of this stuff, what I'm going to do, and then anything else. So that is what I think people should be doing, every single day, because if you want to implement this funnel, like these habits are specifically designed for that. If you don't want to implement this funnel, that's your decision, I guess. And there might be other habits that you would benefit from, but this is exactly designed for this. So if you like these videos, you think this funnel is a good idea, like just do exactly what I'm saying here. So that is the what, but let's get into the why next. So some of these will be obvious, but some of these might not be. So waking up early and exercising, you're at your best mentally, physically, energy-wise when you're the most fit. And early to bed and early to rise makes a man happy, healthy, wealthy, and wise. You've heard that saying, and it's so true for me. My life really changed for the better when I read a book and implemented the 5 a.m. club. I'm kind of getting soft in my old age. I'm 28, but this is when I was 21. And I wake up at 6 a.m. now, not 5 a.m. But great book if you've not read it. Just give it a go for 60 days or something before you pass judgment. The reason why you'd write your goals and say your major definite purpose out loud is for your subconscious mind. It's not quite affirmations, and we're going to put in some work behind it, but we need to have our mind focus on what we're trying to achieve. For the Kaizen, the why is always focused on incremental improvement. We want to make small gains and big breakthroughs. We want to have both, not just one or the other. Big breakthroughs are going to come from implementing the funnel, and small gains are going to come from constantly improving it. The start of the day habits are probably what you'd expect, or start of workday. Good communication and talking to them will dramatically improve your service quality and reduce churn. We need to be posting content to attract top of funnel people and content to convert people. It's kind of self-explanatory, but we need to be making the content. It does not make itself, and it's not something you can do once and then forget about. And then the hours, we need to make tangible progress on our funnel and product quality, and an hour per day on each is a great start. And then posting the community, we need the community to be active. It's a conversion mechanism, so that's, why. It's similar to content, just exclusive to the community. End of day, your employees need to be held accountable. And when you have a runaway employee or someone who's not performing, it's 90% your fault as the owner, in my opinion. And you also need to see where they need help. And if you hold them accountable and you give them help and they're still not getting it, then you fire them. And that's that simple. But until you hold them accountable, you tell them exactly what's expected and help them along the way, it's not really their fault. If you do those things and it still doesn't work, that's one thing. But if you don't do any of these things, it's kind of up to you, in my opinion. One of my favorite quotes is, "A fool with a plan is better off than the genius without one." So I always plan the next day because I believe that lack of focus and work ethic usually comes from not having a plan. If you struggle with that, it's, in my view, because you don't have a very clear written plan with subtasks to break it up into bite-sized chunks. And then update all clients is kind of the exact same reason as you do it at the start of the day, to improve the quality of your service and reduce your churn. Let's get to the how now. So how do you do this? Perhaps I've convinced you that these are a good idea in terms of what you should do and why you should do it, but the devil is always in the details. The what and the why are worthless without the how. So this is what I think most people should do. To wake up early, multiple alarms set for 6 a.m. and a water bottle right beside the alarm or the alarms, maybe all of them. I've experimented a lot, and I believe that you're mostly dehydrated, not even tired. And if you drink a ton of water, you're going to not be dehydrated, and you're going to have to go to the washroom, and you don't want to go back to bed in that case. And I think it's best, in terms of exercise, like, you want it to be meaningful, but not crazy difficult. Like, you don't want to, in my opinion, the purpose of this is mostly to wake up and to do that as opposed to actually getting some elite level athletic workout in. So I think it's best to live in a place where there's a treadmill, or you can buy a treadmill for walking as opposed to doing some hardcore sprinting or weightlifting. Weightlifting and stuff can be later in the day, But this is mostly to wake up, in my opinion, and make sure you don't go back to bed, especially if you're waking up at 5 a.m., that type of early. So you want to write down about 10 to 20 goals in all areas of your life, not only your business and your career, but your finance, your relationships, your family, your fitness, your hobbies, friendships, whatever. And you should have your major definite purpose written down on a printed piece of paper to make it easy. To implement the Kaizen stuff, I have a notebook or a calendar with spots to record each. And you want to write down the idea. You don't only want to write down the idea, but also how you will implement it and how you will ensure it stays implemented. It's one thing to implement it for a day or 2 or 3 days, but permanently, that would be nice. So having a notebook for this and actually coming up with a plan will really help ensure that you do this kind of stuff. The start of the workday habits, talk to them in Slack or whatever platform. So 1 video, 5 tweets, and 1 email. I always plan out what I'm doing the night before as part of this. But typically, the best way to do it is get a style that works for you repeatedly. For example, all my videos are the same style that you're watching right now because that's just what works for me. It doesn't require me editing or doing anything crazy, and I can just make 1 a day. Like I said before, 5 tweets set to recurring, so you can build up a bank that will just recur over and over and over. Once you've done 20 tweets of whatever type, it'll just restart. Best way to do it. And then also put it to LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook, so you're doing on every single platform. I have a format that I have for every one of my newsletters. So it goes activation point or tip, it goes promote my video, and then it goes kind of an FAQ type, and then view my program. Works for me. It's very easy to write these emails that way as opposed to try to do it all from scratch. 1 hour on funnel, 1 hour on product. So I always have what I'm doing planned beforehand in that part. But I work with a timer. I set it for 60 minutes. The timer is, it doesn't look like this. It's exactly this one. Cheap $20 cooking timer that you can use for this. You can hear the beep. Oh, my batteries are dead. You can't hear the beep. Got to change that after this video. But just set it for 60 minutes and train yourself to sit there and work. And then don't do anything until it's done. I like to have some headphones, wired of course. No EMF brain. And then I have a hood up. And this just works for me. So I think it would work for you. It's worked for a lot of people I told to do it. So for posting in the group, make sure whatever you post is exclusive to the group. It's kind of insulting, and there's no reason to be active or join the group if you're just posting the same stuff you're posting publicly on Twitter or LinkedIn or YouTube or whatever. And find a template that works for you. Find an easy way to post that you can do every single time. And then your end of day habits. So get all of these forms, because you probably have quite a few employees. Get them to all go to one spreadsheet. I use Google Forms, and it's easy to just link it. And then once they're probably gone at this point of the day, but message them a solution to if they have problems before the end of the day. Get in the habit of that. When I do my planning, plan out for the 5 most important things to do next day, including what you're going to do for all of these, etc. And you want to write down at least 5 subtasks for each to make it bite-sized and clear. And you can do a subtask and check it off, and that will give you a little reward, as you're doing the task, a little dopamine thing from scratching off a subtask. And that's an easy way to motivate yourself to keep doing it. Let's go back to where we were. And then for updating them, just message them in Slack again. Those ones are kind of simple. So here's the examples of how I do this in my own life to show you that I actually do this and maybe to give you some ideas. So I have an alarm in my bedroom, kitchen, and I should say office, not offer. And a 4-liter jug of water next to each, just to drink as much as I can. I try to drink 30 drinks of water. I know that's kind of specific and sounds weird to say to someone, but that's what I try to do. Then I go to the ground floor of my apartment building that I live in, and I go on a treadmill on a 12% incline and 3 miles per hour for 30 minutes. The incline makes it challenging and meaningful, and I break a pretty substantial sweat doing that. It's not super easy if you haven't tried it, but I've been doing it for such a long time. But it's not so difficult that you dread doing it. And that's, I think, the important balance. I have a desk in my living room that I write my goals at each morning and each night, but this is just the morning here. And then my major definite purpose is a dollar number I want to earn in 2024 that I just read out loud. I have a big wall calendar type thing. Let me see if I have a wall calendar whiteboard. Yeah, I think this is the exact one I have. So I have this kind of attached to my wall, and this is where I put my Kaizen things each day and try to implement them the same day. And I write down just a couple words about how I'm going to do that, nothing crazy. I talk to all my clients in Slack at 9 a.m. Eastern time every day. I have an alarm in phone to do so. Then I film the video like you're watching same day. I do the Miro board usually the night before, but I film the video like filming this. I'm going to post it within probably 10 to 20 minutes after I'm done. I write the 5 tweets after the video. I write the email flow after the video and tweets, and it's all template based. And then I have a cooking timer, the one I showed you from Amazon, and I usually will listen to Hans Zimmer. Just works for me. And then I post in my school group. My end of day habits, I have an alarm and a Slack workflow to do this at 5 p.m. Eastern time. I plan out my next day at about 4:30 p.m. local time. I'm in mountain time. And I do that right before I go to Muay Thai because I train Muay Thai multiple times per week. And then I wrap it up with, I message all my clients in Slack at the same time as I review this, about 5 p.m. And that is what I do. And that's why I'm able to operate this funnel the way I do with relative ease, because my habits are all tailored to do this. So I think that you should try these habits. You're only going to rise to the level of your habits, in my opinion. And you don't have to have a 3-hour morning routine that does some weird stuff, but 95% or maybe more are going to benefit a lot more from having some structure as opposed to just winging it. You're not going to get anywhere winging it, in my opinion, no matter what people tell you on the internet. And to be honest, you don't know what people do. They can say stuff in a tweet, they can see stuff in a YouTube video, but you don't know what goes on behind the scenes. I guarantee you the people like John Jones and Michael Jordan practice and have a routine, have a strict training regimen, more so than anyone else, no matter what they look like on TV. So that's just an example that comes to mind. You don't really know what they're doing behind the scenes. People say one thing and do another, so don't let them psyop you into not having a very good, very structured habits and routine. Thanks for watching.